So a few years ago, the Municipal Act was amended to allow for a system that's known as administrative monetary penalties. And as we go throughout this presentation, you'll see that the word penalty really is meant to replace the word fine. And penalty notices are meant to replace the word ticket, so that the province in developing the legislation tried to use language that was appropriate to show the distinction between the more informal process and the formal process, which is talking specifically about tickets and fines. So several municipalities across Ontario, large municipalities, larger and equal size to the City of Waterloo, have developed AMPS policies, and I'll use that acronym if I can for administrative monetary penalties as an AMPS system. So we've had the ability to learn from them, dialogue with them, look at a lot of their information, their council reports, their draft bylaws, and that sort of stuff to allow us to develop a system that's going to work. We believe quite well for the cities of Kitchener and Waterloo. And so, again, by further background, as part of the last 3-year budget process, 2016 to 2018, our division, the Municipal Enforcement Division, placed an item on in the capital budget forecast to start in 2018. We set aside dollars that were approved by council to research and develop the program, with the aim, of course, that we would have to come back to council for certain council acts to be taken care of, as well as just the general information in the implementation plan. So our project began in earnest in 2018. I want to highlight that it's been a significant undertaking by both the cities of Waterloo and Kitchener. Throughout this joint project, we've shared resources around the development phase. We've also shared tasks in terms of doing research, and we're going to show, as we go through the presentation, the continued efforts to share resources between the two cities once the program is implemented. And what I'd like to do as well is I'd just like to highlight Susan Smith from our legal services, who has been our project manager, as well as Gloria McNeil, who's the Director of Bylaw Enforcement with the City of Kitchener, is here today. And the three of us were essentially the project team and steering committee for the project. And I'd also like to acknowledge significant contributions by our financial services and our legislative services divisions for helping us develop policies, do financial modeling, and that sort of stuff as well. So the current process, as I mentioned, is contained in the Provincial Offences Act. All of the timelines, the fees, and the court process are all prescribed by legislation. There's little latitude for staff to try to resolve these parking ticket issues outside of the prescribed process. Essentially, when someone wants to dispute a ticket or inquire about a parking ticket, our answer, guided by legislation, is if you choose not to pay it, then you've got the ability to dispute it in court. And of course, we know that the court processes, even for minor offenses, the court process is formal. It can be intimidating. There's little flexibility, and there's also significant timelines involved. And I'll talk about the timelines a little later when we get to the benefits piece. So, excuse me. So, just through just as a quick overview, what the AMPS process does essentially is moves ticket adjudication out of the court system into what we consider to be an alternative dispute resolution model. It's aimed at earlier resolution, on top of many other things, including reducing wait times. What this really reflects is an alternative to what we consider to be the traditional enforcement practices. But even though the process is in-house now, we are still guided by provincial legislation and regulations to ensure that that our program adheres to policies and procedures that will protect against things like conflict of interest, implicit bias, procedural fairness. So it's not like we can just make it up as we go along. We have some flexibility for operational procedures that fit what our cities want to do. But we also have to follow the provincial guidelines in ensuring that the protections are there for members of the public and ensuring that there is transparency, accountability, and procedural fairness. But there are some things that in order to move forward, we do need we have some asks of council, and specifically we have a procedural bylaw that is attached to your report today that that requires an enactment. And that procedural bylaw basically outlines, it replaces the provincial legislation in terms of how the process will work, the timeline for people to respond to a ticket before they might incur late fees, their ability to go to a hearing, that sort of stuff. But we also had to amend all of our existing parking bylaws to add a new penalty clause that talks about an AMPS process versus a Provincial Offences Act enforcement process. So those were really just housekeeping amendments. The key piece is a procedural bylaw. We're also coming forward. They're not completed yet. We still have to have them reviewed by CMT before they come to council, but we've got a set of new policies that are that adhere to the provincial regulations. Those policies are under development. They're finished. They're just really under review, and they'll be coming forward for council's approval in May. And of course, there's administrative fees or late fees, really, that that exist now, but they're now no longer prescribed by provincial legislation, so they'll need a council enactment as well, and that's all part of the bylaw process. The one thing that I will say, sorry, excuse me, is that we, in talking with a couple of members of council over the weekend and today, we did make an adjustment to the draft bylaw that you have before you. We've handed in a copy. The only revision is really in the preamble. And the purpose of the preamble is to indicate council's clear desire to ensure that our procedures are or that the process is fair. So we've added a comment in the or in the preamble of the bylaw that specifically talks ensuring that we adhere to policies around conflict of interest, implicit bias, procedural fairness, and such. It does not change the bylaw process. Very quickly. The process is outlined in Schedule A to the report, but once a penalty notice or ticket is issued, the issuance of the ticket really is not going to change. The significant change is once somebody has a ticket and chooses to respond to it. Once the penalty notice or ticket is issued, the person that receives the ticket can pay it or choose to come to City Hall and ask for a discussion. Officially, that discussion is called a screening, and our staff will be appointed as screenings officers to have that discussion. So what the screening officer will do is discuss the circumstances with the person in an attempt to resolve the matter. And our goal with this program and the overall intent of the legislation that allows this type of a program is early resolution. The screening officer has increased level of discretion now to resolve the issue. Their choice on how to provide a resolution to the person will be dependent on the circumstances. But the hope is that just having a discussion, most often people just want to talk to somebody about their ticket, and this gives us the ability to sit down and have a discussion about the ticket in a very informal process. If the person's satisfied with the resolution and there's still an amount to pay, then which typically there would be, then that amount, if it's lowered or whatever, the amount still is outstanding, and they would have to pay that. If they're not satisfied with the resolution, then they can go to a second step, which is requesting a hearing. And this is also outlined in Schedule A, and the hearings are going to take place at City Hall, Kitchener City Hall and Waterloo City Hall. We anticipate that there's going to be one hearing per month per city. The hearing is going to be presided over a hearings officer. This is an independent third party that's going to be appointed by council once we go through the recruitment process. It will not be a city staff member. So the hearing is considered to be quasi-judicial, but it's significantly less formal in the POA process. The decision of the hearings officer is final, and if there's any resulting fine, that would become payable on the person. If the person chooses to not pay their fine, whether they've gone through the screening and hearing process, or whether they've just ignored their ticket. Sorry, excuse me. The issue can still go to the plate denial system. As I thought, I'd be challenged with my voice.
Take your time.
This is not left over from March 17th, I can assure you. So the benefits of the program are enhanced customer service, as it's less formal and intimidating. It relieves pressure on the court system. We've got enhanced level of discretion. We have more control, and I believe this is a significant piece moving forward in terms of customer service, in that we have more control over scheduling. We're going to be, we believe that we're going to be able to significantly reduce the wait times. So if someone were to get a parking ticket today or submit a parking ticket today for a trial, you're probably looking at a court date about 9 months from now. We believe that we're going to be able to reduce that wait time. Our goal is somewhere in the 2 to 3 month range, and we're confident we're going to hit that, but that's certainly one of the metrics that we'll be measuring. The hearings will be less formal. They're going to be in a meeting room here at City Hall, not a courtroom. And there's also an element of public and officer safety in this, in that the current process requires that officers, when issuing tickets, may actually have to, and the only way to issue a ticket now, a parking ticket now, is to put it on the vehicle. And people know that, particularly in certain types of enforcement, including school zones, we've had some challenges with people trying to dash away quickly to get out of paying a ticket. That process will be of no benefit, or that alternative will be of no benefit to them going forward, because we do have the ability, if we implement it in our procedure, which we have, to ensure that that officer safety and public safety, including students, for example, are not put at risk. And so, the ticket, if it doesn't get on the vehicle, it can be mailed later to the individual. So there will be some financial implications. I'm going to give you a bit of an overview, but I'm also going to highlight the fact that it's premature to be very specific right now, but I do believe we can give council a level of comfort. The cost of the hearing officer, we anticipate to be about $6,000 to $8,000 annually. That's the City of Waterloo's cost. City of Kitchener will be incurring roughly the same cost. And of course, we both have both cities, or tickets for both cities can be heard at both hearings. So we've been able to increase the number of dates available. So if a City of Waterloo date is not acceptable, or is a bit of a challenge for someone with a Waterloo ticket, a City of Kitchener date if possible. We do know that there will be some increase in revenue resulting from the fact that current fees that are being charged for people that fail to respond to their tickets, those fees right now are shared between the region. That cost sharing no longer needs to occur. I want to highlight, of course, that the focus is on early registration, and in a perfect world, we'd avoid any late fees. The longer a ticket takes to get paid, the more administrative costs there are for us. And of course, that just like anything, we're all penalized when we don't do things in a prescribed time frame, especially when it comes to financial accountability. And of course, there's costs that we have to bear if someone doesn't pay their ticket, and we have to find out who the registered owner is. We can do that through the province, but that that search fee is really what we're saying is that we're going to monitor the financial implications, and we'll bring forward any required budget adjustments as part of the 3-year budget process. But I will repeat myself in saying that we're very confident that the resulting costs will be covered and absorbed through the existing program. So the fees themselves, just the council will be approving as part of the procedural bylaw, is the MTO, or Ministry of Transportation search fee, which is a cost recovery piece, which already is in the process. It's part of a fee that gets charged to individuals at time as part of their late fees, but now the municipality is going to be required to pay that and request it back. Again, I want to repeat, because I think it is important to understand that all of these late fees that you see on the screen relate to somebody that has not responded appropriately to their obligations after being given ample time to do so. And it's our belief, in talking with other municipalities as well, we all share the same concern that if someone is given a parking ticket or any type of fine, and they've got the ability to dispute it, and we've made that process easier and given them more time, then the costs associated with that program should not be borne on the tax base. It is like any other fine. If you get a seatbelt ticket or liquor offense, or I won't use noise charges because that's more of a bylaw issue. But there's penalties associated with with that type of a process. So again, the fee really, all these costs are related to someone that doesn't fulfill their obligations, including the plate denial fee, which is what we're getting already. We get that as part of the MTO process. It's now a specific fee that gets to approve. So it's really a continuation of a current fee that's applied through the POA process. And I will indicate that some of these fees have been adjusted, since some of the fees have been in place for well over 20 years, or almost 30 years in the time that I've been around. So there has been some adjustments made, and the municipality has the ability to make those adjustments. So in terms of next steps, my apologies. City of Kitchener Council is going to consider the same report, or essentially the same report, the same program and bylaws next Monday night, April 15th. We've already set in motion a joint communications plan between the two cities that will ramp up once once the program is approved. That will help us educate the public. The education piece will also include online information, so people will understand what the process is and how it benefits them and what their options are. We're going to finalize our policies. They're going to come to council here, Waterloo Council. I can't speak for Kitchener on this particular piece, but all of our policies that are prescribed by legislation will be presented to council on May 6th. We're in the process of implementing any software updates to our existing parking system, and I will indicate that any costs related to the research development and the capital costs of upgrading any software, which is quite honestly minimal, is covered within the existing capital budget. We have to revise our penalty notice so that the ticket's going to look essentially the same, but it's going to have different wording on it. Related forms like reminder notices will have to be updated. Our hearings officer posting and recruitment process, we've done some work in terms of laying out what that process will be, but once both councils approve the program, and again, assuming that these programs do get the go-ahead, then a joint recruitment panel from the two cities will be recruiting hearings officers, and it'll be a pool of officers that can be used that could sit in either Kitchener or Waterloo at any given time. Then we have training of staff, as well as private property officers. As many may know, that we have there's a significant number of private individuals like security officers and property managers that have the ability to issue tickets on their own property. So they'll be issuing a new type of ticket. They're not going to see really any significant change in how they issue their tickets, but certainly the fact that they'll no longer have to go to court to give testimony during a parking dispute will be, I believe, of benefit to them. And then we're planning to go live on June 3rd. We're confident that we can meet that date. In the unforeseen circumstance that it's delayed, it would only be delayed a few days. But we're comfortable that we'll have everything in place. This has been a project that's been going on for well over 12 months now. So in wrapping up, and I apologize, I'm over the time. So just in summary, we do believe that this is a significant step forward in terms of enhancing customer service for many reasons, including moving away from the traditional enforcement methods to alternative dispute resolution. Other significant benefits outlined in the report, and certainly any costs associated with the program will be contained within the existing budget, and more on that will come to council as part of the 3-year budget process. So I'll end it there, and I'll have a seat with Susan Smith, and we can open it up for questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Shane, for comprehensive material.